Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Yoga Well podcast. I'm your host, Chase Bossert. With me today is Carrie Heeter, who is a recently retired full professor from Michigan State University's Department of Media and Information. Carrie, your expertise has been in experience and game design, but you've also been a serious student of meditation and yoga for more than 10 years and recently published a book, a very interesting book on mini yoga meditation. So welcome.
Thank you, Chase. And actually, my work with meditation is totally in line with being an experience and game designer. They are one and the same. Designing meditation is experience design.
I completely agree. I want to start with a little bit of your origin story. How did you get interested in yoga? How did you get interested in meditation? Where did you come into our world? How did that work?
So I'll go quickly over the earliest part, which is Marcel Albertin. One of your students was teaching a gentle yoga class. I was going to the class, and I overheard him talking to another student about starting a mind-body foundation. And I thought, the relationship between the mind and the body. How cool. Is there a relationship? Oh my gosh. Can I be part of this? And he said, well, if you want to learn about it, you have to experience it. So you should do yoga therapy with me to learn about the mind-body connection. So that was the beginning of our 12-year relationship and the learning of that. So he gave me a personal practice, and after he gave it to me, it rocked my world. I started doing it every day and have done it every day since then. But about a year into working with him and talking with him about that, I signed up for your Yoga Well Wednesday morning meditations. And so I had my very first experience in 2013. The first month was about Garuda, a very special eagle. And it blew me away. It's like, this experience. I was an eagle. I had that experience. I analyzed your first class. I timed out exactly how long it went between each command and everything you said. And it just totally, I'm used to designing experiences, video, virtual reality experiences. And you are giving me this experience of being an eagle using just my mind and body with my eyes closed. And we went on. I will go quickly, but the next month was a bed of golden light. And imagine you were on a boulder on a mountain, surrounded by or lying on a bed of golden light. And I was there and I felt it, but I was cold. And I messaged you that, and the next week you said it's the perfect temperature. And then I wasn't cold and so it's like, so you began to show me that designing meditations was just like designing all the experiences that I do. So I quit my job. I don't know if you know that, but I immediately went down to halftime with Michigan State saying, I need time to get into this and I need to make meditations. I need to do this. And so for that next year, I was halftime with Michigan State so that I had enough time to really go into this and the making of it and working with Marcel, but inspired by you and the experiences every Wednesday morning, just completely set me on that path.
That is fantastic.
I'll keep going along here because
I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
It had a huge effect, right?
That is fantastic. I was not aware that you went down to halftime immediately after that in order that you could get immerse yourself into these studies. But how wonderful. Thank you. I think that one of the major misconceptions in the West is that yoga is a form of physical exercise or that it's a form of spirituality. And while those things are both true, for me, the definition of the word yoga that makes them sort of holds everything together is this idea that yoga is intentional linking. And whatever you link to, it has qualities. And those qualities influence us. And we absorb them and we take them on. And then our system functions differently because of that. And so for me, yoga is really mostly a science of experience. Of course, then we can talk about as a sort of different thing, well, what is the purpose of these, having this experience or that experience, or what are we doing, etc. And there's a wide range of what we can do there. But, if we're moving and breathing, that's an experience. And it's an experience that is giving our body something unusual that it doesn't usually get during the course of the day, or our breath. Same thing can be said of meditation or of mantra, of sound, and these, if we can understand how those influences work in our system, then we really have a model for somatic therapy, because it's really showing us how the things that we do change who we are. And that's what yoga has as a fundamental, foundational piece of what it is. And I love that you are this expertise in game design and experience, etc. And you come and you go like, whoa, this is interesting. I love that.
Well, and my focus has been on using new technologies. I started the Communication Technology Lab in 1978, and our motto was "We design experiences." Right, and suddenly here you are showing me something that uses no technology other than the mind and body, and is anyway. But so to put some example around your wonderful generalization about why we have different experiences and linking to qualities. So what was the big deal about being an eagle in addition to it being cool and fun? Right, I was different. I felt different. My body was lighter. I was flying, and I was looking down at the present day situation as opposed to being in the middle of it. So it gave me some distance. It gave me some skills and thoughts and perspective that I hadn't had before that Wednesday morning meditation, as one example.
Yeah. And that's so useful. It's so useful. In fact, it's life changing, as you're saying. Because if all of a sudden you can see, oh, I'm not my situation. In fact, I'm not even my body. It changes how we are in the situation, and it changes how we are in our bodies. And it's extremely, extremely useful.
So I am a scientist as well as an experience designer, so I design and study experiences. So when I got launched into the fascination with meditation, I turned my research and experience design faculty position into saying, I'm a faculty member who designs and studies meditation. And Michigan State actually liked that. I had to conduct research, publish articles, and get grant proposals, which is what you do. But I did that. And they would go, look, we have a meditation expert in our faculty. So I have done that. And so I've read thousands of research articles about meditation, and I have written and conducted some of my own. So that's why I'm sort of explaining why I will bring in some scientific terms to talk about cool stuff that meditation does. So only two terms I'm going to use. One is metacognition, and that ties into the eagle. And that is, cognition is thinking about thinking, right? So it's going up above and looking at what's happening in the mind instead of just being in the mind in the moment. Yep. Learning to watch yourself, your patterns, all these things. So That's one of the things that meditation just opens wide up.
Sure does. Sure does. And, I don't actually know what the second term is that you're going to introduce, but I'm really happy that there is a second term, because some meditation traditions hold that metacognition as the sole purpose of what we're doing. That is the main purpose of what we're doing. And we don't. We hold this as a part of what we're doing, right? There is this, from a theoretical perspective in yoga, there is an observer, and then there is the instruments of experience. Your body, your senses, the mind that is putting it all together. And those things are considered to be a sort of tool, or a kind of implement that allows you to be in the world. Like, I'm fond of calling it your Earth suit, because, if you go into space, you need a space suit. If you go into the deep sea, you have a deep sea suit, etc. Well, if you're going to be on Earth, you need to have an Earth suit. But the Earth suit, you wouldn't make the mistake if you went into space of thinking that like your suit was who you are, right? Or if you go deep in the ocean, you don't have this idea that, oh, I am this tank on my back, and I am these tubes that are going to my mouth, etc. But somehow in the process of acquiring an Earth suit, we take on the identity of that. And a major portion of what we are doing in yoga and meditation is having the experience that, oh, I'm not that. And it's not that we're unrelated to that, because, of course, everywhere I go, there is my Earth suit, and it's interacting with the world and who I am and how and how what my experiences are, etc. Are, strongly influenced by the history of my Earth suit, etc. But to really have this experience that I'm in my body, or I'm in my mind, and that it really changes our perception of life, and it's a different world after that, actually. And yeah, so interesting. Please keep going.
We are embodied beings, so my other word is interoception, right? Mm-hmm. And that is the awareness of all of the internal senses from within the body, not what's going on in the outside world. But we get enormous amounts of information about how we're feeling. So feelings are what keep us alive. Feelings are how organisms detect good things to eat, bad things to stay away from and run from. So we get incredible amounts of information from our bodies that is our body's ways of telling us this is bad, this is good, and all sorts of different aspects of how we're feeling. And we go through life in our heads disconnected with the body most of the time. I probably, more than anybody I know, was that and am that, just out there thinking about planning and studying and writing and reading and stuff. And so I wasn't feeling very much of who I am or where, but there is so much information when the mind and body come together and you're listening to your larger self, not just the part of you that's talking to yourself.
Yeah, as you're saying this, so how I think about that from a yoga philosophy perspective is that the fundamental activity in life is perception. That's like the first thing that evolves, the ability to perceive. And immediately after that, you have the ability to distinguish. So a perception means that you're able to experience. And immediately after that, you get me, not me. So I'm following the Samkhya model here of buddhi and ahankara, and then we have these apparatuses which accumulate all of the feelings and create our world and present it to us. So there's a kind of idea that you're looking out and you're seeing the tree, or that you're feeling the grass, or you're smelling the flowers, etc. All of these things. It's like we think of that as being direct perception, but actually from a yoga perspective or a Samkhya perspective, that's not actually what's happening. That instead we have something in our system called manas, which is organizing all the different sensory perceptions and recreating the environment that we are in our mind, and presenting that to the observer. So this ability to be clear about what you're perceiving and whatnot is also a really important aspect of yoga, because the manas uses the record of our previous experiences, called smriti, often translated as memory, but it's not quite right, because this is a much broader, everything we've ever experienced is in this record. And manas uses that record to then piece together and recreate from the information that's coming in a new world. And this can cause a lot of issues, because the record of our previous experience is so strong in our system that very often it overrides the information that's coming in, and it takes over, and we end up in sort of loops, not really perceiving what's out there, but actually just experiencing what we experienced before, projected onto the incoming sensory information, etc. And then who we are, we continually end up becoming the person that we were before. What yoga allows us to do is to start to influence that process by giving us new experiences. And then as that happens, over time, we can really change the way that things are, the way that our record of experience is participating in the construction of what we are perceiving.
So tell me about manas while I'm meditating as an eagle. And smriti, what's the role?
Yeah, so most of us wake up in the same place every day, and then we go down, we go into the same buildings, we interact with the same people, we have the same sort of environments again and again and again. And those things become so ingrained in us that we, in order to function properly in them, we don't really even need to perceive them. I get out of bed, it's my wife. I go downstairs, it's my daughter. I don't even have to look at them. I know who they are. What happens is that we stop looking, and how they were the day before, or how they were last year, or how they were before that, ends up getting projected, pasted onto them. We take that off. In order to break that, we need to have some new experiences. But if you're going to the same areas a day in and day out, interacting with the same people day in and day out, it's hard to have new experiences, right? It's hard to pep yourself up or get excited for something, etc., when it's still over and over. But if you close your eyes and you call to mind, say, an eagle, and that eagle is now soaring, and that distance, that new perspective that arises, that's real. Even though your eyes are closed, and even though you are theoretically or objectively not an eagle, your experience is that you are. And the feelings that arise from being the eagle and of seeing such a broad, vast perspective, etc., that gets stored in your record of experience. That gets stored in your smriti. And if you come back and you repeat that again and again and again, in other words, if you have a daily meditation in which ego is your object, then it, over time, it starts to establish a new dominance in how the mind is constructing your environment and whatnot, and the feelings that are there, and the perspective that you gain from it, and that then changes how you're experiencing your environment. And most of the time, you're talking about in this experience that there was a opening between you and your world, and you're like, all of a sudden there's a fresh perspective, etc. So then we actually start looking. How is my wife feeling this morning? How is my daughter feeling this morning? What is the color of the sky and the clouds? And how are they moving? And, as we do that and we start actually perceiving, looking more, then the record of our previous experience, in other words, our memory, is a less and less dominant role, and we come more and more into actually what's happening in our world and in our life.
I was just going to say, the sense of soaring is also a sense of expansiveness, right? So we're having repeated experiences with feeling expanded rather than stuck in one place, and we're building our memory, our smrti, of an openness.
And it has an impact in how we live our life. So keep going in this introduction and how you came in. So you took a year, half employment, and then what?
Well, and then I decided that making a living with a full-time salary was good, but that I was able to spend that half still doing research on meditation and yoga. So it was still good, although there was a lot of other things. But so I was bringing that together. I have done scientific experiments with meditation. I have brought people into laboratories and studied them doing different meditations. I have brought meditation out to the field. So one of the things about studying meditation is, as you just said, you do it one time and you can have an experience. And but then that's kind of gone. You do it many times, and it's a much stronger impact on your human system, and the effects are much stronger. But so how do you study having someone do a meditation many different times over time? So that gets complicated, but we've done that. So there's that aspect of me. But also, I've been doing my personal practice every day. I've been doing your meditations every week. I do twice-a-day meditations, and so I'm doing a ton of meditation. I'm designing meditation. I'm studying it. And after 6 years, Marcel finally let me also teach it. So now I get to make them.
Right. That's so awesome. I love it. How did you come up with the idea of writing a book?
Our form of meditation is so incredibly awesome. And when people who are not in this lineage, who don't know this kind of meditation, know that I do meditation, they think they know what I do. They think it's mindfulness meditation, which it is not, or they think it's pure spirituality, which is not what I'm in it for. So they have no idea how cool it is. So I wanted to really present in a clear, understandable way how amazing this stuff is. And I was afraid that maybe I'm just weird and nobody wants to know about Carrie's meditations, right? So it couldn't be just about me. So I interviewed 7 people who I know of who also love meditation and found out that, in fact, I'm not weird among us. These kinds of experiences.
Yes,
people
you are.
have these experiences every day.
I am too.
Well, I'm the goofiest. I'm a goofball. I for me it's fun, but other people are more serious. But they have similar experiences. It's like this is normal. This
right.
is what this lineage is like. It's so cool. That's why I wrote it.
Right. So what is that specifically, do you think the culture or the field as a whole, what is it that they need to know?
Well, those are two hugely different questions, the culture or the field. If by the field you mean scientists, that's one thing.
Well, I was actually going to ask you to define the field. So what is the field?
Well, I defined the field. I wrote a book called An Inside Look at Meditation. It's 330 pages where I very painstakingly and carefully explain it at an initial level. So
in other words, the book is a foundational, is explaining what is meditation and why we should be interested in it scientifically.
So you can't know what meditation is without doing it at all or by doing it once. Mm-hmm. It takes repetition over time for the experience to get deeper, for changes in how the mind and body function, for metacognition and interoception, all these things to come together. So it's not initially visible. So part of what the book does is it talks to people who have been doing this for decades or more about their long-time experiences. But it includes 89 stories, including people who've done it one time or people who've done it others. And so it's just using all of these different examples of people's stories, of example meditations, to give a real sense of what it's like. I know scientists who study meditation who either don't do it or have tried it one time, and they don't even know what they're studying. In the medical field, in integrative medicine, I talked to a new doctor that I'm working with, and she said, "Oh yeah, we did a week on yoga, and as part of the semester course where we studied all sorts of different mind-body things." Doing it once doesn't understand it at all. There's so much. So that's another reason why I wrote the book, is to just lay that out in an interesting, fun way to understand both the joy, the depth, and the potential impacts of it.
Right. I do think that this is really important. You know, yoga and meditation is so first person. And in so many ways, science or modern medicine is really so third person. It's so dependent upon scans and tests and other tools, etc. And this tool is so first person, so personal. And I think that it's like trying to capture a three-dimensional object on a sheet of paper, unless, with all its rounds, etc. It's impossible to do. So if you're only looking at it from external, I think for me, when your point here is that scientists study meditation without practicing it themselves, and they don't understand what they're looking at, etc. I just think that's so true. The experiential part of it is fundamental to the studies. Yeah.
I love learning. And so for me, the field of our meditation is something that the learning is never ending. And it's amazing that there's always, always more to learn. And the Wednesday morning meditation and discussions, in May, it will be 10 years that I've been going to that every week. And I learn something about myself and about meditation every single time. And that is so cool. My partner is a mathematician who doesn't do this, doesn't get this. And he says, how can there be more than one day of content? What are you doing studying it for 10 years and still learning? It doesn't make any sense. But it's just, it unfolds. You understand it differently one day. You hear about other people's experiences and go, oh, then that. So I just love that it's an endless path where each person sort of follows what interests them, but there's just so much to keep learning.
I have to agree that I also believe that one of the greatest gifts that Mr. Deshagachar passed down to us is lifelong learning. It's really true. It's fresh and it's new and it's ongoing and it's interesting. And it's such a gift. It's such a gift. You gave us what is the field missing? What does our culture need to know about meditation?
A lot of people, when they hear that you do meditation, they say, "Oh, I can't do that. I have monkey mind. My mind is too busy." And they have no idea that monkey minds are welcome in our meditation, that we do movement, we do breathing, we use yoga principles to move the mind to a point where it's receptive to meditation, to move the body. So it's not what you think it is one point.
So I'm going to follow on that by saying that when I hear that comment, "Oh, well, I tried meditation, it's too hard," to me, what that means is inadequate preparation. What is missing in our culture is a way of thinking about the body and the mind and our behavior and our emotions that they're state dependent. In other words, if I change my state, then my emotions and my behavior and the way what I think about the content and how I'm thinking, the way I'm breathing, what's happening in my body, they all change. And we tend to think of ourselves as existing. And actually, we're in constant flux. And the state that we're in determines what are we feeling and what are we thinking and how are we breathing and how is our body, and all of those things. We have very little concept of that in our culture. And I think that also is true in integrative medicine. You get these ideas about the relaxation response, etc., is sort of as close as it comes. And it's like, well, if you calm down, then that would be helpful for your blood pressure and your heart and all that. It's like, no. It's not a single dimensional thing. It goes in all of these different directions, and there's so many different ways to influence your state, from what you eat and drink to who you spend your time with, to what's in the environment, to how are you breathing, to how are you moving, and all those things. And yoga does such a nice job of tying that all together in a coherent manner and moving somebody from one state to another. Yeah.
So the other thing that is not common in culture is thinking of meditation as fascinating and fun. And it's like usually sort of seen as something serious and it's work. And for me, it's like the most fun part of my day is when I get to meditate and finding out what happens and what I go into. And I'm a little bit on the far end of, oh, it's fun, but it's interesting and it's useful is widely held, and that it's different every time. And because I'm different every time, and because I go back to it and the experience changes because I'm different and I've had the prior experiences, and so it unfolds.
Yeah. This is another thing that about meditation. My dad and I have a joke where for him, meditation means that I'm sitting on some cushion examining my navel. So I will say something like, "I'll be back. Gotta go examine my navel." And then on my way into practice in the afternoon. And what is really true is that, the first part of our meditative life is learning how to change our state so that the mind becomes directable. This is why when somebody says meditation is too difficult, essentially what they're saying is, I haven't learned how to change my state so that my attention follows my guidance, right? So the first part of what we're doing in the years of meditative practice is like learning how to develop attention. And then we use that attention to keep it stable at some place. there's an infinite number of places that you can put your attention. In fact, your whole life can be a kind of continuous meditation if you are just putting your attention from one place to the next. So I'm paying attention to my wife while we're having a conversation, and then the conversation stops, and I turn and I put my attention on what I'm cooking. And then, in a way, what we're learning to do is to develop a sustainable attention. But that's not the whole game, because after we have a sustainable attention that is developed, we need to be able to release and let go of our grip and let something else within us take over and explore where our attention is. And that second part is so fascinating, interesting, insightful, joyful, fun, useful, healing. What word do you want to use? And it's the opposite of the first step, which is in the first step we're kind of developing more and more discipline in our lives, where our system becomes more and more balanced and we have more and more sustained attention. But in the second part, you need to keep that discipline. You need to keep that sustained attention while at the same time loosening your grip and following what arises. And that, that for a skilled practitioner, that gets to be something that you can do more and more regularly as you progress through the years. And so much comes out of that. Insights into who we are and into our relationships and into purposes in life and what we should be doing and not doing and why. And it also really opens a window into what we started the conversation with, which was this metacognition of like, oh, I'm not my body and my mind, of like, oh, okay, well, I'm here and I'm participating in life, etc. And life is moving through me and life is happening through me. And I'm a participant in this really big event at the same time as I'm a passenger in that. And
so I agree that what you and I actually call the allowing, among the things, is the magic, the fun part. You don't know what will show up, but it's coming from you. And so for me, we're not talking years into serious practice. Mm-hmm. Novices can also have the experience, even within practice, where they get their attention directed with preparation. It's not work. It comes naturally when it's time. And then at that point, the meditation guide may say something like, allow to come to mind a tree from your life. Don't go looking, just wait. Allow a tree from your life to show up. And it's so cool. We don't know what's going to show up for anybody. And then something comes, right? Yeah. Maybe you'll have a vision of a tree or just a feeling for it, and it shows up. And it's that allowing. So you're practicing directing the mind. You're practicing then once you're, allowing. And eventually that extends into daily life where you start doing more allowing.
That's true. It's really true. It's true that, the magic of what we received in Bin Yoga from Mr. Deshakachar is that it is truly all levels. All of this is accessible immediately. We just have to do a little bit of preparation before we sit. If you do sufficient preparation, things are there. And, most people think of meditation as like something you just sit and close your eyes and do nothing. Well, that's not true. There are all kinds of hand gestures. There's all kinds of what are called placements, where you are putting your attention, or you're putting your eyes, or you're putting your hands in various positions and movements, etc. And those things are designed to support an ongoing link with the object. And so meditation can also be quite active. The main fundamental piece of meditation is that there's this continuous link to the place. And I think that also is something that is poorly understood in our culture. Like we don't even know we don't really know what to say meditation is. It gets, as you said, it gets sort of confused with relaxation, or it gets confused with spirituality. And actually fundamental to what meditation is a sustained attention in an intended direction. Like it's putting your mind somewhere and being able to keep it there. If you say allow a tree to come to mind, and then immediately you're doing your laundry list, or you're thinking about what you have to call immediately after this, there's no sustained attention there. And I think that this is really an important piece. What did you learn in writing this book, Carrie, that was, or what surprised you? What came out of the book that was really surprising for you?
Well, there's a sense in which the whole writing was surprising on every page. So I designed really more so than wrote the book, sort of one chunk and one idea at a time. And I would sort of sit with an intended sort of concept and let what wanted to be said or to show up, or what example to be there and to fit in. So part of it is the process. I was learning how to write in a way I had never written before, and I was inserting Carrie sort of as a guide throughout. So I wear 100 different hats in the book. So I'm a meditation teacher, I'm a meditation student, I'm a scientist, I'm looking at other people's stories, I'm stealing Chase's notes and stealing Chase's students, and including quotes from Chase and from my teacher Marcel. And so with the goal of conveying how cool this is. Yeah, letting a structure emerge. I didn't know how the 330 pages fit together until the end. I don't know. That's a hard question. I guess I don't know how to answer it. I'd have to do a meditation on what surprised me about the book. But another thing about when meditation is that the experience each person has is different. So if we go back to Carrie as an experience designer, and I always want the player to have their own experience in a game. Well, in meditation, if you listen to the discussion after a meditation and people talk about what happened to them, it is so different. People go to different places. The meditation I just taught this morning, like I have a Carrie flavored experience. You kind of recognize me if you've heard me tell my stories, but each one is different. It's like, how did she or he go there? What happened? And so, that is like the ultimate goal of experience designers, is to have the experience come from the person. So one of the many things you've taught me and others about meditation design is you want the experience to be open enough so that the person has their own experience. So we don't say, imagine a 2-foot tall elm tree growing in this place. We say, allow such and such to arise, and it comes, right? And so that's just sort of a little bit of the science and art of designing a meditation, but that extends to all of it. Is you have your experience, and that's what is so cool.
Yeah, I completely agree with this. So many meditation teachers will say something like, so you're on a beach and the waves are, just lapping at the shore, and it's white sand, and there's a seagull next to you, and you look over and there's a whole 6-pack of Corona, or, whatever it may be, right? It's all, so you're having their experience. And fundamentally, meditation is designed to develop self-empowerment. It's designed to put us in touch with us, within ourselves, and for that to start to manifest and become perceivable and a real active part of who we are, etc. So if we as teachers are too explicit in our instructions, then people end up having our experience, not their experience. And if they have our experience, well, that's also an experience, et cetera, et cetera. But it is not encouraging of them to have and be something on their own. And that's a really fundamentally important part of this.
So part of the reason Marcel didn't think I was ready to start designing meditations on my own for 6 years was that he wanted to be sure that I was embodying the principles of yoga as I went into going to do that design. And which is, you taught my yoga teacher training and many other classes I've taken from you, and he taught and worked with me on it. And so it really was, so even though it's like, this is really fun, we can do that, it's not random, the choices that I make in a design, the steps that I include, or the meditation objects, or my goals. So I actually am thoroughly held by the yoga teachings that I've had in this lineage. It's really not just, this is fun. There's an awful lot behind it that's consistent and coherent that I have sort of tried to put in the book as well some.
Yeah. I think for me, the thing that is really, from my perspective now as a longtime teacher of meditation, when I see the way that you are connecting the principles of meditation that are here in Vinyasa to various scientific concepts and the way that they are being developed in our culture, I think that's very interesting because, as we were saying earlier, the study of something as just like, scans of the brain or, this or that thing happening, or it lacks something. And you have come around from a different angle. You have started with the meditation. You have started with yoga. And then as you're unfolding the story of what is yoga, of what is meditation, you are then tying that into these other important scientific concepts and showing how science is uncovering and finding out what has been known in these traditions for a long, long time.
It's adding vocabulary and explaining what's happening that you already knew. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. And but I think that's, I just think it's such an important part of what the book is about, that it really successfully straddles both worlds and shows how to make meditation and yoga more comprehensible, more understandable, more really ultimately usable and practicable by science and by Western medicine, etc.
Another thing people have pointed out to me is that the book shows that meditation doesn't need to be all sweetness and light. That even when your meditation is about something serious or even potentially upsetting, or an insight, it's like, I can't believe I've been doing that for the last 20 years. But the joy of the discovery of the insight is like worth it and things like that. And that it's a tool for exploration and discovery. It's not just a feel good escape or practice. It's you can go so deep and you get addicted to discovery.
Good. Super good. Just one last point here is that, what we're starting, meditation and yoga, they have a starting point as a field that's a little bit different than Western medicine, in that yoga and meditation start with the idea you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And science is starting from the idea that physical facts are all the facts. And if we start having consciousness as something that is outside of materiality, we're now into some weird dualistic system that we don't even know how to measure, etc. And so fundamentally, these starting points are really different starting points. And meditation is its range of what we can use it for. We can use it for healing. We can use it for therapy and the recovery of health, etc. We can use it to help us in our daily life, to help us have better experiences and to maintain ourselves in our daily living, etc. And there's also this other section, or this other piece of what meditation is about, which is really experiencing and thus understanding what it is to be. And as something that is alive, not just in the sense that my body is alive, but that there is a fundamentalness to me, an essence to me that is beyond what is readily available here in my body and my mind. We'll see how long that takes science to catch up to.
And what else is so precious about this field is that you work with teachers over time. My teacher and mentor, Marcel, I mean, you can't make all of these discoveries on your own. I mean, to have taken classes and a class from you for what will be 10 years, I mean, it's so important to the development of the person to have this kind of ongoing relationship with teachers.
You know, this is a piece in our culture that the role of a teacher for through time is not well known. It is really important to have somebody who is you trust and who you care for and who cares for you, guiding your practice and guiding your navigation of experiences. Not that they're doing it for you, not that they're telling you how to handle your life or what to do, but that they are designing your experiences and helping you to navigate your way through. And this student-teacher role is just fundamental to developing as a human and as a being and as a practitioner of yoga or meditation. Yeah. It's good. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, Carrie. Congratulations on this wonderful book. If people are interested, you can find an inside look to meditation on the yoga references page of the yogawell.com website. And also, you can also find it on your own website. Is that true?
You can find it on yogamindtools.com, but I recommend going to yogawell.com because you'll find this and so much more.
If you also want a paperback version, it's sold on Amazon, correct?
Yes, the full title is An Inside Look at Meditation, Experiences for Healing, Support, and Transformation. Just look for An Inside Look at Meditation on Amazon.
Carrie Heeter. Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks, Chase.